focus, and welcome to Abstract Essay, where ideas take shape, thoughts find depth, and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. He's a debut author and the author of debut Astrophy and Mr. Jack. Welcome to Mr. Jack. Introduce more about yourself that I missed.
Sorry, you're kind of cutting out there. Could you repeat that?
Yes, welcome to Book 10. Welcome to Abstract Essay, Mr. Jack. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Jack McMahon. I'm a debut author, like you're saying, from Ohio, Troy, Ohio. My book is called Atrophy and Asymptotes, A Father's Raving on the Decay of American Values and Authoritarian Drift. It came out on August 15th, and just enjoying the beginning of that journey, this new journey that I'm on, and hopefully going to continue writing after a short little break to promote this book.
Yes, indeed. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world through your debut book, Atrophy and Asymptotes. Tell us the writing process.
Uh, I started off, I was just kind of, like I was saying on the Book 101 review, I was kind of angry and had some familial problems mixed with, at the same time, as COVID, and that kind of led me to a dark place that kind of wanted me to never want that to happen between me and my daughter's relationship. So then I created this book as like a response to that and fear that my relationship with her could kind of mimic what happened with my relationship with other family members. And it's like I think I may have mentioned the term non-financial life insurance policy. It's kind of the lessons and mistakes of my life, and also as a society, mistakes that we make, generational mistakes, and I'm hoping to prevent them. And at the same time, as I do fail them, also it's kind of like an apology to her. So that was the beginning of it. What kind of got me initially started. The process after that kind of went into trying to stay focused on that goal and my daughter, and then also the world around me, because it's also a political commentary, and then capped each chapter is capped with a letter to my daughter that's more personal. So both of those things were kind of always at the front of my mind going into writing. And then every time I sat down, I kind of had to. Well, normally I would get the inspiration from one side of those, either the the aspect of parenting or the aspect of citizenship and just experiencing the news of everyday life. I kind of tried to take the lessons from one and apply them to the other, and vice versa. And that was kind of like what inspired me day by day to keep going. It wasn't every day, obviously, or night by night, because a lot of times it was after she went to bed. Uh, but I guess that was kind of like the inspiration to keep going. I didn't have like a set schedule or anything for writing. I do now, but I did not at all at the beginning. I kind of had a lot of self doubt on whether or not I'd actually finish it. It was like it started off as just something I wanted to do, but in the back of my mind, it was kind of telling myself that it would never be finished and doubting myself. And then as I just kept pushing through, and it took it over a year, but it got finished.
So the title is incredibly evocative. Can you unpack the meaning behind atrophy and asymptotes and how it frames your argument about decay of American values?
Yeah, so I tried to intentionally with the title go kind of half and half on uh, an emotional and a more logical, cold and reasoned choice of words. Um, because I talk about rage and reason as like my style, I guess, of the book. In the When I address the general readership, it is more rage of like things I see in society that are wrong, and I go over a bunch of highly debated topics of our time, and then as more of a rejection of my own cynicism, I use reason to then kind of explain to my daughter in the letters, like, these are the things that do get us mad. These are the things we do care about. These are, or sometimes it can be inspired out of love, and someone you love or something you love is injured and it causes, anger. But then you need to take the logical, reasoned approach after that. And so that rage and reason kind of push and pull behind the book, I also wanted to be reflected in the title. Uh, and the atrophy being the decay of the American values as generation to generation. If we don't uphold our responsibility to our children, then they slowly lose the values. And over generation to generation, it causes the decay of what we once were. The asymptote is also the more mathematical term, and cold, and implies the reasoning behind it and the math behind my solutions to rage. It's also it means like a graph that's infinitely approaching zero but never touching, similar to how I view America as approaching authoritarianism. But we kind of lie to ourselves and say, since we're America, we'll never actually touch it. So I just kind of thought of that as uh, an asymptote towards authoritarianism.
You choose the humble, personal frame of a father's ravings for a book about vast political phenomenon. Why was this intimate lens the right one for this subject?
Well, it actually kind of started as the intimate lens and then expanded the opposite direction. Um, I do think, though, that politics in general, and maybe even some subjects that we don't think of as political that are in the book, they all come from and spawn from like our emotional reactions that we have to what's happening around us. And we also have, some people feel they have a duty to kind of push back against what they feel is wrong in the world. And I think when I became a father, that that need and feel for like a duty for the people around me kind of increased. Not kind of increased, it did a lot. Um, so I think that the the parental and child relationship kind of exemplifies the duty that we have to all of the people around us. And I do think it extends beyond just children, but um, in that same manner, I just think it's like I think that if people could see everyone around them as their child, I don't think that that's how laws should be made, but I think that it's a good way morally to kind of judge yourself. And you have a responsibility to the people around you, just like you have a responsibility for your children. A little
Was
less.
the Mr. Jack, was the specific moment, event, or realization that transformed your concern from a private worry into a compelling need to write this book?
Um, I wouldn't say there was like a single moment, but the build up from isolation that I kind of self inflicted isolation after COVID and the death of my brother kind of combined. And then I just started messing up relationships left and right. And then just this realization of like our reliance on other people, and uh, the realization of everyone's different like thresholds for what they thought was too much in any given situation. Like I can forgive up to this amount and on this subject, and I can forgive up to this amount on another subject. And I was thinking about that a lot during that time because I kind of thought that in general, America kind of failed to hold their principles during COVID. And at the same time, in my family, I kind of felt that was happening as well on non political issues, like familial issues. So that whole time frame was the I guess the point, but it took years to actually get me to the point of okay, this needs to become a book.
The book sounds or seems to be blend political analysis, memoir, and cultural criticism. How did you structure the writing process to weave these different threads together cohesively?
Um, well, I do each chapter is kind of a different topic, and like once one ends, it's like that's it for the book. There are themes throughout it, but that's the way I structured it, and I kind of am writing to the general readership for the majority of the chapter, and then it's capped specifically a letter to my daughter, but um, though it's kind of also to the general readership. It's just she's the audience specifically in those portions, and I that's where I kind of take a more pragmatic approach to my initial beliefs that are in the main portion of the chapter. So the main portion is like, okay, like what's the ideal world look like as I'm talking to the general readership, and then kind of uh, the letter to my daughter is obviously going to be hmm, the letter to my daughter is going to be like more intimate, and in that kind of framing and speaking, you're kind of allowed to be a little more forgiving of people. Obviously, when I'm if I'm in an argument with somebody on politics, I'm people don't aren't as forgiving. But when you're talking to your child, you don't necessarily want them to see your worst moments of Twitter. You kind of if you're trying to teach them a lesson, you're gonna be more forgiving and be like, okay, that's when I was mad. This is what it's really like, though. And so that's how I kind of cap each chapter. And I think that should be done by everyone. I don't think everybody should live their entire life at their worst online moments.
Writing about societal decay and authoritarian drift is heavy subject matter. How did you manage the emotional weight of this topic during the research and writing process?
There, there's stuff that I discuss a lot. Um, and so it's not like anything was a surprise to me while writing it. There are a few topics that are um, they're obviously more emotionally draining. Censorship for me is one of my biggest complaints. There's also so that one I obviously get mad about a lot in real life. So that's just I'm well trained in like responding to how I think of censorship. So it wasn't as emotionally draining as it may seem in my writing. The chapter though on abortion, I kind of was like looking up um, like the medical jargon for it, and like it's not like the intricacies of how they're done. Um, so that one was something I didn't really want to. I didn't really want to read about, but I did for the book, and then talked about it in the book. So you'll have the same experience if you read that chapter as I had researching it. So whether you want to or not.
So, what did your research process look like? Did you find yourself delving into history, political theory, or sociology, or current events most frequently?
Um, a mixture between history books written by people that are involved in current events and then actual current events. Like I believe the last time I was on, I mentioned Michael Malice's "The White Pill." That was a huge one that I read. I'm not sure. I think I had already finished it, or I may have read it kind of at the tail end. I was at the tail end of the book as I first started writing. And then there's a Pat Buchanan book, or two of them. So that's not current events, but he did kind of predict current events pretty accurately in one of the books. Suicide of a Superpower, and the other name of the name of his other books escaping me. Also, a Carol Roth book on um, like the COVID effects of small businesses. It's the war on small businesses. Is what it's called, I believe. And then the obvious news sources that are all over the place, like for current events. All the current event news sources.
So, how did you land on the specific narrative voice for the book? One, the balance of intellectual rigor of an analyst with a new or with the raw concern of a parent.
So the voice itself is kind of similar to how I've always written, and I've always this is like the first time I've tried to do a book, but I've been writing for my whole life and loved writing my whole life, and I've always kind of just kept it similar to um, talking with friends and with like maybe a few drinks in, and so there's gonna be some we're like kind of egging each other on, going for a little shock value, but still want to win the argument uh, type voice. And then obviously, um, 10 years ago, I realized that I would end up being a father eventually, and um, I don't know. I didn't really notice any change in the way I wrote until I actually started writing this particularly, and knowing that she would read it would kind of made me criticize myself harder, um, look for flaws in my reasoning more, and when before it was kind of just like I'm only responsible for myself, and the dumb things that I say will only negatively affect me. Uh, so now that I have this child that I'm raising, I had to take into account that if I get this wrong, it's going to have major consequences on my daughter's life because she's hearing it from her dad, not just random guy on the internet.
Definitely. And what is the primary feeling or call to action you hope readers is left with after finishing the last page?
To leave a review. No,
To
um,
the review.
that's the joke answer. But seriously, um, no, like I kind of was mentioning in our last meeting, um, like I understand that my positions are outliers to the norm because I don't really I can equally piss off the left and the right. So um, uh, people aren't going to have any all the same principles as me, and I just think it's important that you do have them. And if you have a child, though, it's even more important to have them because you're going to be passing them on um, to the next generation. And if you are even compromising, on those values in the slightest bit, then over time, all those little compromises are going to slowly, from generation to generation, just wither away everything that you think is important in society. And you might think that, you know, whatever values that you hold and principles you have, that they'll always be present in humanity in general, but the reason that you think that is because they have been passed on generation to generation, and it's now your responsibility to do that passing on, and it doesn't happen automatically.
Mr. Jack, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please to listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season. Abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love letters in second season, and movie 101 review and music 101 in fourth season, and science 101 and sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Jack, what is the single most important conversation you hope this book sparks with within families and communities?
Um, I kind of had an answer I was thinking of, and then you said within families and communities, and I realized that there's more important ones to be had than just some political point I want to make. Um, so I'll focus on that. That's it. Actually, there are better answers than the one I was thinking of. Um, the best message or the best conversation that this could spark in families and communities would be the duties that we have to the next generation, and what are they? What should we be aiming towards? And it is important for families and communities to sit down and actually discuss more than what should our laws be, but actually what do we want the world to look like when our children are in our positions. And I think if you actually sit down and discuss that with your community, then maybe you're going to be able to realize that a lot of people have the same ideas as you, just different ways to get there and different opinions on how to get there. But as long as you're moving towards the same target, maybe maybe both paths can do it acceptably.
Mr. Jack McMahon, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Hoping for more and more empowering books like this to come. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book itself?
Yeah, it's at J.E. McMahon, which is MCMAHON.com. You can find it online retailers, also in bookstores. And if you go on Goodreads right now until the 18th, I believe, there's a free giveaway for 10 signed copies of print.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Jack McMahon because if you support him, for sure more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. Jack, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
More to come, people. See you soon.